I've had the LG C1 television for over 6 months now, and having used it in a variety of ways, I feel I can finally give a full and proper review. Let's get it. Aesthetically, the TV looks great. It has slim bezels, is very thin, at least the top of the unit, and has a metallic, attractive stand. That said, the LG C-Series OLED style has not changed in well over 5 years now, and it would be much appreciated if LG would make some changes in this area moving forward. Functionally, the C1 has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, multiple USB 2.0 ports, audio optical out, and a LAN cable port for internet. Now, the category everyone wants to talk about, picture performance. As far as picture performance goes, it's more of the great same picture quality from the LG C-Series line. Admittedly, there isn't much of a difference between the C1 and CX in terms of performance. With each successive C-Series release, it seems LG is keen to make minor, iterative improvements and changes, rather than make bold, massive changes or take any risks. In this respect, the CX and C1 have almost identical picture performance. The C1 does have the Alpha 9 Gen 4 processor as opposed to the C10 having the Alpha 9 Gen 3, but I don't find a huge difference between the two processors. It could be argued maybe that the Alpha 9 Gen 4 in the C1 is slightly better at upgrading or upscaling HD content in comparison to the Alpha 9 Gen 3 from the C10, but the differences are so minor it's really hard to say one way or another conclusively. And then regarding the C1's SDR performance, it's pretty much in line with the C10. There are very few, if any, differences of note. The story stays largely the same with HDR performance. The C10 has anywhere from 680 to 800 nits of peak brightness, and the same remains largely true with the C1. With Calman, I measured 730 nits of peak brightness in filmmaker mode. The C1 does a great job handling HDR content, especially 4K Blu-rays. Detail reproduction is excellent, highlights pop, and black levels are typical OLED incredible. A word of caution though, the C1, while generally capable of fighting off most instances of glare, is probably not a great fit for a sun-soaked living room. If you have a lot of continuous ambient light, a super bright LED is probably a better choice for you. But for nighttime viewing, nothing beats a self-emissive OLED like the LG C1. The C1 has the standard HDR10 playback capability, but can also do Dolby Vision and hybrid log gamma. Having recently downloaded YouTube TV and watching live sports in 4K hybrid log gamma, it looks truly stunning. Brightness and contrast looks incredible. Sports uniforms pop off the screen. It truly is a sight to behold, and you won't be disappointed watching live football, live basketball, live baseball. It brings your sports watching experience to a whole new level. The C1's black and gray uniformity is excellent as well, particularly black thanks again to the self-emissive pixels. Gray uniformity is very good on my C1 as well, much like my C10, though this tends to vary panel by panel. That said, pre-calibration accuracy for certain modes is surprisingly poor on the LG C1, especially the Game Optimizer mode. Grayscale and color scale delta errors were all well over 5, resulting in a very inaccurate image. Thankfully, this can be greatly improved simply by setting your TV's color warmth to 2. On the other hand, Filmmaker and ISF presets are quite accurate out of the box. So, if calibration is not your game, which for many people it isn't, stick with Filmmaker or ISF modes for movie and network TV consumption and you will be just fine. Motion handling is also excellent on the C1. There are a multitude of motion options like Cinema Clear or Smooth to suit your preference or style. The C1 can properly remove judder, though it is sometimes prone to stutter with low frame rate content, largely as a result of its instantaneous pixel response times. Now on to gaming, perhaps the greatest strength of the LG C1. As far as I'm concerned, performance again is very, very similar to the C10, which was also a great gaming TV. Gaming in a dark room is absolutely amazing, again thanks to the perfect contrast ratios. Colors are rich and vibrant with about 98 to 99% DCI-P3 coverage and about 74% Rec 2020 color coverage. In a dark room, you will not find a better image for gaming. Of that much, I am fairly certain. Critically, input lag measures at a low 13 milliseconds for 60 Hz gaming and about 5 to 6 milliseconds for 120 Hz gaming. Using LG's latency boost mode in Game Optimizer will allow you to get 60 Hz gaming down to about 9 or 10 milliseconds, which is about a 3 or 4 millisecond improvement. Games feel very responsive and engaging on the television. Lag will not be an issue for 99% of gamers, unless of course you are the most hardcore of gamers or you game competitively, in which case you'd probably want a high refresh rate monitor. Similarly, because the C1's self-emissive nature, it has super fast pixel response times as well. There is no need for a backlight to illuminate the pixels, which eliminates delayed pixel response, resulting in no smudging or smearing during gameplay. The response time for the C1 is rated at between 1 and 2 milliseconds, which is insane. And as I mentioned, the Game Optimizer, it is new this year for the LG C1 and also the game dashboard. The dashboard can be brought up with a click of a button on the C1, showing you valuable information like frame rate, gaming preset, black stabilizer, and variable refresh rate information. Holding down a button will bring up the full Game Optimizer menu, allowing you further tweaking and enhancements. It all looks super clean and snazzy, and is entirely user-friendly and functional. Also, thanks to the 4 HDMI 2.1 ports on the C1 rated for 40 gigabits per second bandwidth, you can game at 4K 120 Hz while simultaneously getting Chroma 444 in full RGB levels, resulting in stunning clarity, color, and responsiveness. Be aware though, some have complained about the C1's gradient handling. I, however, am happy to report that my C1's gradient handling has been mostly good. There is some noticeable banding here and there in certain games, but I find it to be generally minor and not a major distraction for me. Now, my biggest gripe about the LG C1 is Vrr Flicker. After multiple firmware updates, both the C10 and C1 continue to have Vrr Flicker issues. It's not noticeable in all games and only seems to happen with major fluctuations in frame rate. Minor variations in frame rate don't tend to cause noticeable flicker. If the game you are playing is bright or there is a lot of ambient light, flicker also isn't noticeable. Only when playing in a dark room and a dark game, like Resident Evil for example, will you sometimes notice flicker. It's not a deal breaker for sure, but it's something to be aware of. Here's to hoping LG can fix this with 2022 OLED models. Also noticeable to some, but not others, is ABL, also known as Automatic Brightness Limiter. Full field white images force the LG C1 to dim down to about 150 or so nits. And that, again, is because of Automatic Brightness Limiter. That 150 nits number in theory sounds bad, but in execution it's generally not noticeable to me. Again, everybody is different. Some are more sensitive to ABL than others. I don't seem to be particularly sensitive, but keep in mind, ABL does exist. The TV uses ABL to prevent temperature and voltage spikes from occurring, which could potentially damage the TV. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the C1's black frame insertion capabilities as it pertains to gaming. The C1's BFI setting does improve motion clarity, and it doesn't dim down nearly as much as the C10 in doing so, which is great. The catch though, the C1's motion resolution just isn't quite as good as the C10's. It seems LG had to sacrifice some measure of motion clarity to make the screen brighter on the LG C1 when using BFI. Regarding the C1's audio reproduction is okay considering the C1 comes with a standard 2.2 stereo configuration. That's one speaker on the left, one on the right, and then two speakers dedicated to low frequency or bass reproduction. There are multiple audio presets to choose from, and the speakers can also be calibrated using the C1's remote, which does add some warmth and richness to the sound. Overall though, to do this TV justice, one should invest in either surround sound or at least some sort of a soundbar. Regarding Webos, remote, and menu interfaces, the C1 uses newly redesigned Webos 6.0. In my opinion, the platform is just fine and runs quite smooth. There are countless apps and programs to choose from, and the web browser works pretty well for a TV. The remote, dubbed the Magic Remote, is also quite good. It is voice capable, has dedicated Netflix, Prime, and Disney Plus buttons, and can be used as a magic wand on the screen. The remote fits comfortably in my hand, and honestly, there's not much about it I don't like. It's quite good. Now, the menu interface for picture and sound settings, etc., it's okay, but in this area I feel as though there could be some improvement. It's clear, it's easy to read. That said, the menu placement and navigation could be a bit better. For instance, with the C10, all one had to do was click on a picture preset to begin calibrating said preset, which makes sense, right? If you want filmmaker mode, you click on filmmaker mode, it brings up brightness, contrast, etc. You begin tweaking and you're good to go. With the C1, you have to click on the preset you want, and then you have to scroll down to advanced settings, which sort of adds another step, and I find it to be kind of odd and peculiar. All in all, it's not terrible, but it could be organized a little bit better, and it's something that will probably take you a bit of time to get used to. So in the end, the LG C1 is the LG C10 2.0, in my opinion. It functions very similarly to the C10, but with a few slight iterative improvements. Among them, the C1 adds in the all-new Game Optimizer and Game Dashboard modes, allowing for unparalleled gaming customization, which is great. The C1 also has slightly lower input lag with the new boost option, and it also has the newer Alpha 9 Gen 4 processor. Again, though, these are relatively minor changes and don't make a drastic difference in picture quality. Overall, the picture and audio reproduction remain largely unchanged. The C1 does not set new marks in color or brightness. Side-by-side picture comparisons between the C10 and C1 in this regard remain almost identical. In the end, what you get with the C1 is another great OLED TV, with perfect blacks and outstanding clarity and unparalleled contrast. Also what you get is the best gaming TV in the business, in my opinion, with 4K 120Hz Chroma 444 10-bit connectivity. Input lag is even lower with boost, creating a responsive, truly immersive experience. If LG can fix Vrr Flickr in 2022, watch out. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. And as usual, I will do my best to get back to each and every one of you. All right, guys, later.